Well, it's always a duty to introduce oneself and to thank for the invitation. I'm doing this for two reasons. First, because I'm here. The second is because I've been chosen by the president. That's why I would like to thank him. As a tiny doctor of a small town, I'm here not a researcher, but I've been doing vaccination for 30 years. At least 450 is the number of vaccinations I've just finished, 250 paid by the public health care system, and I think I can have something to say about this practice. I've been convinced this morning by listening to the chairman that I had to choose the beginning of my presentation with what the wise man in the Middle Ages did. Explicatio terminarum, let us understand ourselves. Let's explain. Safety and vaccination 2.0. I'm going to talk about it at the end. Let's distinguish safety from efficacy. Explicatio terminarum. What does it mean? Because I've been working on the field and I can tell you it's highly complicated. I've been setting up centers. I have biologists cooperating with me because we have to do counseling, because I don't want to force patients. Patients have to choose to do vaccinations. If they choose not to do that, it's because I've been guiding them. There is a history that allowed me to say that maybe there is no indication at all, by assuming myself, of course, the professional responsibilities. Vaccines have changed the history, and there are 10 things to know. I would like to thank Professor Giulio Taro for honoring me of his friendship. I'm honored because his book, to me, has to be cherished, and each professional is supposed to have his text published last year in his or her library. So, explicatio terminarum, what does it mean? It means, of course, distinguishing safety and efficiency. So, on the first part, I'm going to deal with efficacy, and there is nothing to say. I would like to forge an agreement, an integrated agreement with science among different professionals, because we have to get to vaccination 2.0, and we are just achieving this goal. I would like to thank the president, because vaccination 2.0 is precision medicine. With the multi-ethnic society and genetic cross-linking, immunology is changing, the immunological response is changing. Viral genomes. In my intestine, I've got almost all the viral genome, 18,000 viral genomes. And in a short time, I will tell you that we have a societal emergency of antibiotic resistance. So these scientists are well accepted because they are giving us insights to help us defend ourselves even more. But we have to talk to each other, not building walls. We have to distinguish efficacy and safety. So I would like to better explain, and I'm sorry that I took the time of outstanding speakers, but I thought it was necessary to clarify from the very beginning. We're not talking about efficacy, but vaccination safety, and that's what vaccination has done, a sort of revolution. And I will tell you that when I was a student in the 70s and 80s, I was scared to visit due to the emergency of the hepatitis B. And there were no transaminases at the time. And I can tell you that in the ER, my colleagues got sick. And today it's called hepatitis C. So you know how history went on. And dogmas. We created lots of dogmas on DNA. Baltimore says we have been studying the genome, and I've discovered, as I met him, that we are like the flies. We have the same sequence. It's just the length of the DNA that changes. We have understood nothing at all. And epigenetics was set up, the history of humanity, new culture. And today, I cannot but look at genomics. So, sewers, water, vaccinations have changed our history. As usual, we have to open up to art. I love going to museums because you can see how real it is, this picture. It dates back to the 19th century. Edward Jenner, vaccination from the cow. This British doctor, like Edward Bach, these are outstanding experts who deserve being read with their biographies. So look at this picture. The people who is scared, extremely poor, matrons. They were scared, they were criticized and endangered obstacles and chaos coming out of arms, adverse events. So nothing has changed from the 19th century to date. We are in the year 2000. That's not possible. So now this allows me to get straight to the problem. Professor Giuliotaro is one of the biggest experts of cholera in Naples, this invisible, scaring monster that is guiding us. And even more, I can tell you that the biggest fear was hepatitis, because at that time we understood that dentistry was a sort of outbreak. Just to let you understand that in the ER we were scared. We didn't know what happened, and HIV came soon after. And so we as professionals, as young physicians, were scared and to tackle these challenges due to the lack of knowledge. So what is vaccination all about? We have to go back to history. And I want to show you some historical pictures that are really cherished also by Professor Giuliotaro. The lack of fear, communication. Let us spread out an efficient communication. I'm not interested in scientific practices. I'm interested in scientists to talk to each other. I will tell you a personal story. It was about in the 80s. I deal with IRG, a young lady living close to my country, a Bersana, 25 years old, a sportswoman. She had an allergic rhinitis. And so we performed the test, the diagnosis, and we asked for immunotherapeutic drugs. I can tell you that at the time, these drugs were really terrible. We used to include everything in these formulations without knowing the amount of aluminium. We put wheat inside. We didn't know the contents at all. And we did small injections at increasing doses. I have my uncle, who was a physician, and I did that at home. So this lady was a sports lady. She came after running. She went to this uncle to have this injection, and she died. So it's not possible to justify such a treatment with this dad. I wanted to revolt myself, so I never performed any injections at all. And now we have allergoids. So this is research. The fact that there are adverse events doesn't mean, and if there are effects, it doesn't mean that I have to stop there. I have to understand, to go beyond, and not to say it's not useful. We have ergoids. That's of course a certainty for allergies. Sublingual is done at home, and this has changed the world. 2.0. I wish to the chairman and President Donna that is just the beginning. This marks the beginning of a new age of communication. Look at these children. I would like to invite you in my office, in my laboratory when I perform vaccination. It's impossible to keep 5 or 6 children, 2 mothers, 2 grandmothers for each child. They're screaming, crying. They have their arms injured, and they are given the Kinder Egg or candies. We are born all Th2 oriented. I had to set up a counseling to help children and raise awareness in parents for the correct feeding, because the immune system can be distracted, and we'll listen to a presentation on this. And this is part of the vaccinal counseling. Look at these children. They got vaccinated, but they are also proud in a time in which there was nothing at all, just fear, death. You have seen the picture of smallpox, but let you think at the problem of cholera or hepatitis B. So in 2018, finally a focus. So the professor is anticipating times. It's telling to the professionals, please play a role in research. Let us make a step forward. Precision medicine. So let us avoid to go one against the other with walls and pros and cons. There's no pros. There's just a science that's to communicate, to provide answers, and to forge a dialogue. We have to distinguish politicians and scientists. Politicians are supposed to apply something. The scientists have to study, and they're not to be ashamed of changing dogmas. I was telling you that in 2018, the first Center of Precision Medicine was set up. So it's not conceivable that we keep on quarreling. We have to invest. Obama in 2010 invested $200 million for precision medicine to start a new era of vaccination, because we have no weapons any longer to fight against severe infections. So, explicatio, what does it mean? What does vaccination mean? It's a drug. It has to activate the immune system, so I have to get some opportunities of studying this genotype, that constitution, and the history, the personal history. So, like for any drugs, there are adverse effects. There is uncertainty in the preparation. You heard me, I do not have to repeat something that is already new, but nothing was discovered by Professor Bolgan in her sayings. Because from the ancient knowledge to the new knowledge, we are not getting forward. We are still debating on this. So we have to discuss on how to improve the system and not to block the research system. So everything goes through statistics and maths. So that's why we have to distinguish efficacy from safety. Otherwise, we are putting together things that do not allow us to be objective. For example, and I will tell also something about polio, as I heard something about this. It's efficient. I have no doubts on this. Otherwise, I would not undergo subcutaneous therapy. 90%, 60%. There is a rate of efficiency, but even one case and one reporting is a reason to go into depth and to recognize a failure. So I have to go beyond. And for polio, we have even reached 100%. And then Professor Giulio Tarro, of course, is going to give us some information. When I was graduated, I've just seen at Caldarelli the iron lungs that are no longer here. My young colleagues in these hospitals do not know what iron lungs are now any longer. And so this is disappearing, and it is reassuring me a lot. So despite vaccination, persons are getting sick. Yes, it's true, because we do not have the knowledge, know-how yet on the Th2, Th1, T regulator, microbiome maturation, how this has an impact on nutrition, and so on and so forth. We have severe symptoms, that's true. So I cannot, close my eyes faced with this. I am a scientist myself. I have to say, if there is an hypothesis, if there is something to do, I have to tell to researchers to communicate among yourselves and to each other. On the internet, there are highly debated news, but information is there. So let us try to understand the reason, the contributing factors, if it is possible to screen children for vaccination in a better way. That's our goal. That's the effort we have to do. And I believe that this day is dedicated to this kind of study. So what are we supposed to do? For the efficacy, of course, we have to target safety. I perform a counseling. I try to guide, to talk, to communicate, and I can tell you that this allowed me to get just a few dropouts, a few complaints. But when we perform counseling, we tell no lies at all. I never say it's safe. I say it's effective. And it's not safe because effectiveness doesn't go always hand in hand with safety. And I can tell you that your child that has this feature, according to me, according to my Campania region, we have 40% of MTHFR heterozygous. If I do not give acid folic acid or a transmittellant, I'm not performing vaccination, and I don't want to tell you why. Maybe I'm wrong, but I asked the researchers to study this because I've noticed that many children have lots of reactions, and in this way there are less reactions. A further example, you're going to listen to my colleague, a biologist cooperating with me, talking about biopeptides that are released after the digestion of some proteins that are immune competent. So let us give also some suggestions on how to guide this child, this adult that performs a trivial vaccination, which is not trivial at all, the influenza vaccination, to get these injections. So I can tell you, I suggest you, that the patient has to be guided. It's a suggestion, it's not an obligation. The patient has to accept. So vaccination, is it a personal matter? Is it to be delegated to the communication, to mediatic communication? No, this is not the case. Vaccination is something very serious. It is not a personal problem. It cannot no longer today, in the 21st century, as this author says, the same dose is equal for everyone. In this multi-ethnicity that's changing, we know very well, we have fast metabolizers, slow metabolizers, we have those who are more immunocompetent, others who have more autoimmune diseases. So just think that the exponential growth of pathologies, dermatologic allergic pathologies, or autoimmune thyroiditis, a question, in this kind of immune system, what are we supposed to do? So I wonder, I'm not a scientist and I want some answers to this. The analysis of genomics after the death of the gene, a new science was created, genomics. And so all therapies today are target therapies to proteins. So why don't we make a consensus on proteomics? Why do not verifying if this is helping us to better target vaccinations? Precision medicine, I'm getting to my conclusion, because the goal out of vaccination safety is to get to precision medicine. At least the wish that I would like to convey to Professor Dunn and Professor Giuliotaro is that vaccination 2.0, like software, is marking, laying down the foundations of a new era. Precision medicine, in a way, is not supported by the usual statistics because it is personalized. So also the analytical methods, studying methods are changing, and we already know something about this. This is on Nature. This publication was published on Nature, telling us, look, today we have imprecision medicine because 1 out of 25 taking a protonic pump inhibitor has the benefit. So we have put an alert. And there are many other molecules that have been studying precision medicine, telling us, let us save money and invest on research. Another important thing, precision medicine again, allowed us, these molecules that are widely used, they have tripled their therapeutic efficiency. Think at how much we are saving. These are 2 molecules that have been widely used today, and many oncologists are starting genomics studies and the research of some polymorphism to target the right drug to the right person. So then, eventually, finally, safe vaccination can be understood. Safe vaccination is not challenging or questioning what history has given to us, but challenging what we are doing today, as Edward Jenner did in 1826. We have seen that picture that has depicted and painted him in many different ways. And we are still at that time, and we are in the 21st century, still doing this. It's true. I can tell my patients, it's not only what you think there are many substances. And if a child has already some toxicity problems, probably I try not to suggest a vaccine by motivating this reason, not just because I read it on the internet. So our goal is the immune competent efficiency. So that's the goal that we want to achieve. And I will tell you with the final 2 slides a story on polio. Many informed parents came to me. There was also a professor in one of the conferences taking this slide and saying, well, you speak very well. And when you marketed the polio vaccine, polio was already starting to disappear in 1974, 75. Well, things were not in this way. Before marketing, there are some steps of research. Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, Phase 4, that were started in 1964. So when the vaccination was marketed, it was an input was already there. And when the history that is told to us, yes, but in Holland in 1992 there was an epidemic because the Protestant local church did not vaccinate a small community which was then infected. And still today I have patients affected by polio, but these are, of course, elderlies in their 80s. So I don't want to see this news published because science has to be inside the professional order. Science is something that has to go beyond and not only be a surface in the mediatic world. We have broken another dogma, and I'm concluding with the final 2 slides. We are not to be scared to fringe upon dogmas. Aspirin in primary treatment is no longer useful, and we were not scared in saying this. We had this bulwark for many years now, but it is no longer useful because adverse events are more than the positive effects. So again, a precision and targeted medicine, it is just used in highly risk situations. And so Riotta is in this drawing is saying, we live in the best land, we eat well, we practice a lot, but we cannot live more than 30 years, unfortunately. Thank you.